Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the first Risk to Revenue of 2026. We're super excited to have Dave here from Valley Mail. Dave, how was your holidays?
It was really good, and it feels like it was already 3 months ago.
I know it's been it's only like the 15th, but it
Yeah,
seems like the days just keep flying by, huh?
exactly. Which I don't know if is a good thing or a bad thing. It depends how you want to
Yeah,
weigh that.
it does. I don't know. I mean, I do feel a little refreshed, ready to get the 2025 behind me. 2026 is looking really good. Are you heading to like any conferences, Right a Boom or whatever?
Unfortunately, I was going to go to Red Boom, but we're actually having our company SKO at the exact same date. So, unfortunately, we'll not be able to attend for the first time in 3 years. So that's
Wow.
kind of a bummer. But yeah, doing the ASCIIs. We got the CCF community called meetings,
Yeah,
and in the very short period of time, we'll be at PAX 8 SKO at the end of the month, which is always an
that's
exciting time to see all the PAX 8 folks.
that's awesome. Yeah, we will be at Right of Boom and uh, GTIA and a few others this year. So Can IT and whatnot down the road. But yeah, the conference scene last year, it was a lot. I don't remember. What did we do? 20 something. It doesn't matter. It's a lot of
It's a lot.
travel. It's a lot. And I don't travel well. I mean, I've gotten better. Like if this was 5 years ago, you wouldn't get me on a plane.
Right. Right.
But I guess going to all the conferences, it kind of forces you into that. But
Hmm.
but
Absolutely.
yeah, so we're really excited about today's topic. Email authentication. It's kind of a pretty big deal. We'll get into that here in a few minutes. But Dave, why don't you take a second, say hello, welcome yourself. Who are you? All the things. Oh, let's move this one to you. I don't know why that's not working, but say hi.
Hi, I'm Dave Make, channel manager for the MSP division or ecosystem, I guess is a great way to put it. Been in this world of cybersecurity, the cloud side of things for just over more than 4 years actually. But moving through this kind of ecosystem, it's been really a great time and meeting all these MSPs and educating them and listening to their stories. And one thing always want to try to accomplish when representing a product is making sure that the product suits them, not just they fall and see something that's really cool and want to add it, not understand why they're adding it completely. So want to make sure that's relayed during conversations in this industry.
Yeah, that's great. When we first met, hold on, let me remove me, put me back up. Where am I going? Ah,
Where am
no,
I?
we want this. No, we want this. Do we want this? That's what we want.
Yes.
Wow, it's like it's my first time or something.
I thought you were a technology wizard. What's going on?
I'm no wizard by far. No, I think when we first met, it might have been at, maybe through one of the Pitch It events
Yeah, it
or
was.
conference. I think you might have been at Defense X then.
I
And,
was.
we've seen, moving on to let me make sure I say it right. Valley Mail.
You got it. Yep,
Correct.
exactly. Yep.
Valley Mail. And so, email is such a bane of everybody's existence, but it's also such an important part of business, right?
Hmm.
It's actually funny. I just saw do I dare say an Instagram reel? Is that okay for me to say that? Or is this like Instagram's now banned too? Um, but I saw a reel pop up literally yesterday about the guy, and I forget his name. I didn't write it down, but he was like, how can I send a computer to computer message? And this is a little fun tidbit for the audience. Maybe you didn't know this, but he didn't have a way of identifying that computer and this computer to be able to send it a message. And did you know that the at symbol actually was an accounting symbol that was very rarely used in industry or in around the whatever around the globe, and that he needed a way to like, okay, I need to identify this thing over there, and the at symbol was this accounting thing. I didn't know that.
Neither did I.
And then he came up with like username at computer name to be able to direct a message from computer A to computer B. And he was, mucking around in his lab and blah, blah, blah. And this is, 7,500 years ago when computers, could barely do anything. And he figured out that I needed to have something. And he picked the at symbol. And now here we are, a couple decades later, and it's just the standard. So what was an accounting thing? It is now commonly known for email. Blank at blank, right? Yeah. It was a little fascinating, and the stupid reel that shows up, and the more you know. So
exactly, little things you didn't know.
Yeah. So speaking of email, we all know it's kind of an important part of business, right? And so much junk and spam and spoofing and business compromise email and all of these things, right? And it wasn't just so long ago that Google and Yahoo and a few others, they kind of started enforcing some stuff to really help cut down on this junk. So we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about like enforcing that stuff, and like we have this little compliance scanner, and one of the things that it does is it looks at your DNS and your SPF record and your DKIM record and your DNSSEC record and all those things, and you'll be surprised how many fail.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. I don't think people really understand, without a tool, would really understand how much of that is failing, because it is all behind scenes, right? Nobody's getting notified, other than maybe the occasional you're getting blocked somewhere because you're on a list. But yeah, how do you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, maybe talk a little bit about like Google and their enforcement and Yahoo and a few others.
Yeah. Right. So actually, I want to go back. I think it's just over a year ago. Google, Microsoft, Yahoo all reported or announced that they were going to start enforcing, SPF, DMARC, and DKIM for emails, if you're using their email services. Most recently, as of November, Google announced that as of December 1, they will start enforcing this 100%. So this is now Google will now, you must have a DKIM, an SPF, DMARC in place with them if you are using their email services. If not, there will be delays. There will be emails blocked. Your sending services will not work like you want them to, and for good reason, right? We're trying to protect an environment here, and obviously, from you said it actually was from a point of a customer and doing business. You need your emails to go through, and if they're not, how do you find out? And I think that's maybe the more important piece. And trying to do this manually is just a time consumption, right? You putting something in place that's going to work. It's going to speed up the time for you to manage it, and obviously get those emails through is the most important aspect. So going back to the Google and Microsoft and Yahoo, you need to start looking as an MSP, as out there, even a enterprise company. You need to start looking at this. If you're not using it, it's a must-have now.
Yeah, and it kind of goes right back to a little bit of my world, right? If you're not compliant with what people are putting out there, with the big companies, the Googles, the Yahoos, the AOLs, well, AOL doesn't exist anymore. So if you're not
there,
if you're not compliant, if you're not putting in the appropriate things, and even more so, monitoring them.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the key, is that.
And not to use, like, obviously compliance is maybe the overused word in our industry, but maybe even legitimacy, right? Being legitimate, a legitimate email sender. That's what this comes down to. Compliance is obviously very important. We've got all the NIST and CIS control things that kind of run that, but legitimate. How do you make sure that your emails are authorized and legitimate to go through? And then there's this other new cool thing called BIMI. I don't know if they've heard about that, but
Jimmy, yeah.
Another way to authenticate your email to make sure it goes through. So when the receiver's getting it, it's just another kind of, it's like putting, if we want to call mail as the original emailing, when we used to stick things in a mailbox, maybe it's that wax stamp on the sealing the envelope when you send it.
It's funny, Bimmy. So I started working through that path of set, and I'm like, that's a pain in the ass to set up manually and monitor, and like, it's so, like, yeah, I'm just ignore it for now. But one of the things that in the Discover, so BIMI, maybe you can talk a little bit about what that is or whatever. But one of the things that I realized was that, like you said, the wax seal, right? So now when email comes in, and especially if you're using Gmail or whatever, there's a little icon there that shows up, and that icon is the wax seal, for lack of better terms.
That's exactly what I'm referring to. Exactly, like the wax seal on an envelope with
wax
that little, with your own personalized kind of stamp on it, right? So yeah,
so
fast forward to from paper to electronic. That's essentially what we're doing.
So now we just gave marketing a job to come up with a logo for our emails, because well, the I'm going to kind of play a little advocate here. Putting images and HTML and links and stuff in email, that was one area where spam filters were like, oh, it's got a link, it's got a hidden GIF, it's got a whatever, block, get on a block list, right? Oh, they're tracking, oh, they're whatever. And so what I presume Google, Yahoo, Valley Mail, others started to figure out was that wasn't a great way to ensure the identity of the sender and the originating address, right? And ensure that, we used to use these filters to block all this crap, and then they found ways around the filters. And so, fast forward, here we are, many MSPs relied on a text SPF record, or they, relied on, something that is more outdated now. Like it started, don't have an SPF record, you'll fail.
Right.
And so
you've actually, if I just want to jump in, you made a great point there about talking about how I used this in one of my presentations back last year. I began the presentation talking about how many people started in this industry in 95, and scary enough, I did start in 95. And, talked about technology back then and how everything was inside of a network. You had firewalls, you had McAfee type software, blah, blah, blah. These were the things that you implemented to protect the environment. And of course, the world really changed over time. Big data storage just went through the roof. So then you had offsite storage. You weren't, storing things on-prem. And now we're all off-prem with most products now and in the cloud. And now remote workers, right? This has all changed the landscape of how an MSP needs to think as we go through these stages of working, how we work. You need to also change the way you protect. And I think this is one of the scariest things for an MSP is to figure out, what do I really need for my client, right? Where's the doors that are unlocked for them to come in and do something like a spoofing or doing some sort of virus attack, malware, ransomware? So how do I lock all these doors? And it's very important for them to really just understand there's always going to be a changing of the guard of what you're using as you roll forward, and just need to make sure that you look at the products, that you're layering them correctly. Right? You don't want to be paying for the same product doing literally the same thing. There are lots of products out there, and most of them just can, if you put them together properly, they all kind of just overlap a bit, right? There's always just a little overlap, but that locks all the doors. Because if you think about a bunch of circles just overlapping, there's no way to get between the circles.
That's right. It's funny you say that.
I think that's great. A great way for an MSP to look at things and devise a better plan when they go to these events to, what am I really looking for? Don't get caught looking at the new shiny thing. realize what is really needed.
It's pretty funny you say the new shiny thing. I put out a master class on packaging, what is compliant, blah, blah, blah. And, working with our good friend Jesse at Power Grid, Power PSA, he's got a way of like, how do you identify ideal customer profile? And anyways, so I built a little app, right? And I was like, here, this can help you. And lo and behold, what did the MSPs do? 65 of them sign up right now. And I'm like, oh, I should have waited till the end of the session to give them the tool because I lost everybody.
Right.
Like, great. Yeah, but that shiny object. However, Dave, you make a really good point on the overlap, the Venn diagram, the onion, the layers, right? Defense in depth. We could throw all those words out. But as an MSP, your customers, they're either not ready or they don't understand, or maybe they see a news article or a TikTok or whatever, or Instagram. Oops, TikTok, I shouldn't say that's banned. Anyways, they see a thing, but they're not as educated in you, the MSP, being able to be that frontline defense, right? Because if you're not, you end up owning this anyways. Right? If you're managing DNS and you're managing email and you're selling Microsoft licensing, it's on you. And granted, Microsoft does a good job of DKIM and a couple of other things to make sure you're doing stuff. But, if it gets hard as an MSP to manage that at scale.
Right. No, for sure.
I still run, some development. I've got a bunch of WordPress. I've got 300 websites. I manage a bunch of Microsoft licensing, completely separate, not an MSP, but from the development perspective that I manage Microsoft licensing. And for me to be able to do that and the things like DKIM, DNSSEC, all the things, I couldn't do that at scale without some tool to help me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about making sure that the products that you're using them properly, fully, completely, and making sure that obviously saves you time. Because trying to manage, and we'll use DMARC as an example, DKIM, SPF as an example, that doing that on your own takes up a tremendous amount of time. So why wouldn't you want something that's going to open up, layers for you to do something else, like charge for billable hours? That's where you're going to make your money, right?
My gosh, yes.
Selling a product is one thing. You're creating a great stack. You're protecting that client. But ultimately, you want to utilize that product to make revenue on services, on your support, on your hours, on what you're really good at. And that's, helping that client out.
Oh, you mean MSPs want to be profitable and they should actually bill for their time for things that aren't covered in the agreement? Go figure.
Yeah.
We say that all the time.
For sure. And I think it's a great learning mechanism for them, and understanding that. And going back to kind of one of my original things I said during this call was, the companies that I've represented over the last few years are all really important. And I wouldn't want to be in a situation where I'm talking about something that's not important, that's not key to making sure that a client is, or they're protected.
And I hear this, from MSPs that we work with, like, if I do this, will shit break?
Right.
Like like, I don't know. Like it work. Well, the reality is, do you even know if it's working? You don't even know if it's already broken.
Right. So I guess to kind of plug Valley Mail a bit, since I'm here, there is a reporting mode. We happen to offer that to be able to understand where your client is actually sitting in this world. Like how good is their enforcement level right now? More than likely you run the reporting, and within 2 weeks, 21 days, you're going to see the results of how much of the email is actually failing. And they're going to see a lot failing, and they're going to wonder why. And how do I fix this? Well, now what do I do? Oh my God, this amount of mail is not going through. What's going on? There's clients even out there, MSPs out there, that with their clients are leaving things like websites or domains open that are not even sending emails. So they're just using them as web surfing domains.
Mm-hmm.
That is a perfect way for an attack spoofing to come through, is on an open domain that's
Yeah.
only used for surfing. So lock them down. We provide the ability for free to block those, put them into block mode, or park mode as they use it. And you know, they can't get in and use those domains.
Yeah, you know, DNS poisoning is a thing. You know, the
Yeah.
ability to kind of spoof and modify that along the way, whatever. I mean, we're talking highly technical stuff, but you know, from an MSP perspective and their conversation with their customer, I lean into, and this is what you was talking about a few minutes ago. So I provide Microsoft licensing. The customer then assumes you're taking care of my email. But if I were to approach them and be like, hey, we need to make sure we're monitoring and we're making sure that, you know, things are in place, the protections are there, the DKIM, the SPIF, all the things, the client, like, I assume you're just doing that, right? You bought my Microsoft, so it's up to you.
Right.
So the challenge is being able to make sure you have the proper protections in place while also getting paid for your time, right? So most MSPs, at least the ones that I've talked to, especially with the new commerce experience, like they sell the license and they pay for it for the year in full. That's the first thing that I see a lot of MSPs doing. But beyond that, they don't do anything. And so one of the ways that we would differentiate our MSP, specifically in email services, was yes, with the new commerce experience that changed things a little bit, but we would put in not a specific line item per se, but as part of our agreements, a piece of the budget or a piece of the billing said, we're going to monitor your email. We're going to do these things. We're going to put in, you know, spam filtering. We're going to put in monitoring tools to make sure that they stay correct. You know, hopefully you invite us if you decide to buy a new domain, like all of those things as a line item paragraph of email monitoring and support.
Right.
Because then things like Valley Mail, where you can do those protections and do it at scale, can really make you efficient while getting paid for the work.
Right. Exactly. And, you know, I think one of the always kind of pushbacks from a MSP, specifically when you're at a show and you're talking to them, is like, well, my customer, how am I going to upsell them to this price point now? I got to throw another product on their stack and ask for this much more money. The nice thing, going back to the reporting, is you have the evidence, if you will, or the ability to show them this needs to be fixed.
Right.
Like if we've dealt with a lot of MSPs that support automotive, so dealerships. What are they doing? How many marketing emails do you think these guys are sending every month, every day?
Yeah.
And if their emails don't go through, that's ROI gone for them, right? So if they're failing at a 40%, 50% level, my God, that's a lot of emails not to get to the destination, right? So that's what we want to improve, and that for them is an ROI. So for the small amount of money they need to pay for each domain, for those emails to be at 95% enforcement, which is extremely high for this industry, by the way.
All right, I'm gonna crap on HubSpot for a minute because I flipping hate them, and everybody's like, "Gotta use HubSpot." So fine, we got one over HubSpot, and I did all the things, set up all the stuff. So email would go like the whatever, all the DNS records, all the things, appropriate green check marks from HubSpot. Our delivery rates, I mean, our open rates, and you say marketing, and I'll just air dirty laundry, right? When we switched from one CRM to another, because whether it comes from our domain or the HubSpot domain, didn't really matter. We used to get 70, 80% open rates, like, and just as high click-through rates. When we switched, it dropped and it disappeared to 4 to 5%. Like, wow. Yeah. And I spent months going back and forth with HubSpot and going back with domain validation and DCAM. This is why I was talking about BIMI before, because I was like, I'm going through all this. Our delivery rates tanked. Well, we just switched back to another CRM. Oh my gosh, everything's back.
There you go. There you go. They're obviously doing something right on the back end that you don't know about, but it's increasing their send rate, which is increasing your open rate.
Right. And that's exactly, why we have things like Valley Mail, to be able to make sure that you have the proper safeguards in place, so that, that's business. Car dealerships, look at marketing firms that send out thousands, right? There's a whole bulk sender thing. That's a different conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't just come down to, maybe I'm not such a marketing establishment, I guess, but when you think about it, like, who are these MSPs supporting? Lawyer firms, dentists, dentistry offices. There's a lot of small business that they're supporting in their grand scope of all their customers.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, dentist still has to send up, hey, by the way, you're due for your next appointment.
Yes.
Lawyers sending
It's funny. Mine switched to text messages now, which was great until 3 days ago when Verizon
because their emails weren't going through. Yeah. So there is. It's not just, you can't just solely think about it as marketing, and then obviously you've got to think about, are my day-to-day emails going out, which is probably even more, not more important, because ROI is critical to a company, to making sure that they increase their sales and their revenue. But even on day-to-day stuff, I mean, how many times have you reached out to somebody and said, hey, did you ever get my email? And they're like, no, I didn't get your email. When did you send it?
Yeah, well, sometimes that's actually an excuse. Did you get my email?
Sometimes, yes.
What are you talking about?
I really didn't want to talk to you, Tim. Sorry.
I know. It's funny because I got copied on a thread again this morning with the customer, and I'm looking at the thread and I'm like, I never got the first 3 copies.
Right.
Well, I found out later it's my executive assistant filing stuff like she's supposed to, and I didn't need to look at the first 3 copies. It's like, oh wait, I'm talking to Dave today about email, and I didn't get any of these on the chain while she was quick to the punch to file it like she's supposed to.
Yeah.
But so as we start to wind down here, Dave, in the last few minutes, I always like to, and there's a bunch of things we didn't cover.
I know.
I like to have our MSPs to have like one key takeaway. So I'm going to pop you up over here, think about and talk a little bit about like your one key takeaway. Now let's see if I get the right format. This one, or this one, or this one. It's like my first time here. Let's try that one.
Okay, one key takeaway from there's a lot, I think, when we're just talking about product in general, but I maybe I can throw in a couple things. One is, be careful when you're looking at new product. Make sure it fits on into what your stack is currently. Make sure it's locking a door, as I tend to use. Make sure it does that overlapping, those circles. If there's a little bit of overlap, it's going to be fine, because this happens a lot in this industry when you're looking at technology. So when you're investigating product, make sure that fits properly, that it does the overlap, that it locks all the doors, or locks more doors. Learn about what other doors are open. As from like a Valley Mail side of things and email, it's about authentication, being legit, as I mentioned, making sure you get to the highest enforcement level possible. So that, to me, is, I'm sure that if we ran our reports that used our product, did the free reporting, within 14 to 21 days, you're going to see that your enforcement levels are extremely low, your authentication levels extremely low. So you want to correct that. That's what you want to correct. And you want to get up into the highest number. And we can do that. We can get the enforcement levels up to 45% in anywhere from 45 to 60 days. So that's on the Valley Mail side, that's the key takeaway. From the other side, just generally speaking, for MSPs, make sure that you're doing those right things.
Yeah, I love that. And I keep messing with the background. It's 2026. I need to come up with a new one. So we're just going to leave the black one here because it matches our black shirts.
There you go.
So, being able to do this work at scale, being able to have some affordable tools. In fact, you mentioned your free monitoring as well. And I think that's really great to be able to just have data. Right. And I think as far as my key takeaway, when I think about, protecting email, when I think about staying in compliant with what Google and Yahoo and others are doing to force these email things so that your delivery rates are better, your open rates, the marketing components, even just, simple email conversations. Being able to have some kind of tool to show you where things can improve, something like Valley Mail, to have some kind of report that you can then sit with your client, show them some data, not a FUD factory, but show them some data that explains to them in the business terms they can understand with, hey, you send out marketing emails and you're wondering why your CRM only gets 5% open rates. Well, when we look at your email and we look at the way those things are configured and you don't have these things in place, you're not going to get those delivery rates. And so something like a Valley Mail can help with some of those free reporting and generate some data so that now you can sit with your customer and they can make informed decisions. And we're not talking $1 million a month. I know customers hate spending money, but think about it. If you could bring a service to them, be able to do it at scale, for, I hate to say pennies on the dollar, but bring to them a report that shows them how and why these things are failing and the business impact that it's having, then that's the win. So when you think about dealing with email, dealing with Google, Yahoo, the others that are not allowing these delivery rates because you don't have these things in place, because your customer, whatever, have a look at Valley Mail, have a look at those kinds of things that can help you do that work at scale.
And one thing to add to that, Tim, is those reports are not ones and zeros for the company that you're trying to present it to. Make sure those are, we'll use the term executive reports, right? Mm-hmm. Easy, readable, understandable, digestible information that someone, you don't actually have not talk. Show them report. They look at it and they go, what? Oh my God. Now what? How do we fix this problem?
Exactly. Yeah. So Dave, I really appreciate you taking the time coming on here. This obviously will be available at mspthoughtleadership.com. If you'd like to be able to get to the podcast and see past episodes, subscribe we have a really big year packed with lots of great people like Dave and others coming in. In fact, we're booked out through May at this point. And we're really excited for our 2026. Dave, thank you so much for being our first guest. And we hopefully will see you, not at Right of Boom, but we will definitely see you at some more conferences here. And we're excited to see 2026 rolling forward.
Absolutely. And I appreciate I thought there'd be a little more fanfare since this was your first call of 2026. Some fireworks, something. I don't know. I was looking for that.
Oh, wait. Hold on. No. We'll do this. How's that?
That's good.
Yeah. This is when we used to do with Team Tim. So Tim Schnur and Jesse and myself, when we would have a spicy moment.
There you go.
Throw the flame spicy moment up and be like, whoa. So there's your flames, Steve. There's your fireworks.
There's your fireworks. I love it. Thanks, Tim. Right. Much appreciated.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Subscribe now.
Oh.